Akademiks can't ride no wave.
Let me go do some updates on the Diddy stuff real quick. Let's do this for the next like couple minutes and then I'll come back. All right, yo, I'm gonna be in Discord, but I'm gonna just be muted up for a few seconds. Then I'm gonna come back. All right. All right, cool. All right, so this is what's going on live right now. All right, this is right now. So Diddy, we're gonna see Diddy's now argument for bail, and it says, will the third time be a charm after the MDC sweep and photos? Here we go. So now they're in the courtroom, and they said Diddy's attorney, Tony Richo, which, by the way, this is one of the guys who was supposedly have joined Diddy's team for the appeal. He's come back into the gallery to speak with Diddy's supporters. So Diddy's lawyers actually went in the gallery, which is outside the courtroom, to speak with supporters of Diddy who's gathered. Alexander Shapiro, which is also one of the attorneys that supposedly specifying in the appeal process, they're sitting in too, but they're sitting reading from a binder. There's 4 prosecutors in a row, and there's a drum roll, and Diddy walks in. He's brought in wearing an MDC uniform, and he makes a point of hugging his lawyer, Mark Agnifilio. Then he's sitting and chatting with Rico, right? Or Richo. I don't know if I'm saying it right. So while we wait for the judge, we're noting that his lawyers are sitting in the middle of 3 tables. So the 2 U.S. Marshals, rather than directly behind the defendant, as is usually the case, they're on the sides, okay? So, yeah, they're just talking about how it's said. It said, all rise. And I guess that's when the judge comes in. And then the lawyer, Rico, says, the family of Mr. Sean Love Combs are here. They traveled the long way. I guess they couldn't make it into the courtroom. It's probably packed in there, right? The judge says, thank you for being here. And I don't know if he addressed that, but they jump into the immediate matter. So, tell me about the legal pads. Now, remember this whole thing with the legal pads is that the judge is wondering if Diddy lawyer lied to him because they purported that the stuff that the government went through that was seized in Diddy's cell had legal written on it, which was a clear indication that it was attorney-client privilege and stuff to do with his case, except they went through it, took pictures of it, and claimed he was sending messages to have people paid off. So the judge looked at the sealed exhibit of the photos taken from the cell and said, I don't see no legal on this. You told me in court it says legal. So what's up? So he's asking about that. So Diddy's lawyer says, the first time I saw them was Tuesday. So he looked like he's backpedaling a little bit, right? So the first time I saw him was Tuesday. He says, as we sit here today, I'm not too sure when legal was written on each of them. Okay? I'm trying to get to the bottom of it. Different members of the defense team was telling him to write legal on the pads. There's a photo of a pad without legal on it. So essentially, there's a conversation or a question to say, did the prosecutors, not prosecutors, did the defense attorney or did he try to finesse the court after they got caught trying to send messages covertly to bribe witnesses or pay off witnesses? After they got caught, they wrote legal on it, which is like, yo, you're lying to the court now. That's a huge deal. So it says, it's clear that on the November 1 sweep, they did not all say legal. So apparently some said legal. We're not sure, but apparently not all of them said legal. The judge said, the pad you handed to me, did it say legal on it? Wow. Then he says, I'm not sure. This is going to get a little spicy here because, one thing about the judge realizes that, when you're a member of the bar, you are sworn to operate like an officer of the court, damn near, and you're not supposed to be in court lying. I don't care how much your damn client is paying you. You're not supposed to be lying to the judge, right? Okay. All right, so we're just waiting on some more tweets. But apparently the judge is now grilling Diddy's lawyer. Oh, here we go. And then we have another tweet that says, so what's the status of Combs' laptop? And that's the judge asking the prosecutor, Miss Christine Slavic, Mary Christine Slavic. Says the laptop is for him to review the discovery at the MDC. The idea is to preload the information that he's allowed to have at the MDC on the laptop. There is a protective order, okay? So they're kind of trying to sort out what he's supposed to have in jail, what he's not supposed to have, is the stuff that the prosecutor is claiming, which is, yo, they're making specific claims of what they found in Diddy's cell. They think is Diddy trying to pay off, coerce, or threaten a witness. Is that what's going on? Right? So the judge is trying to make sense of this. By the way, this is all going to matter because the judge today is going to rule if Diddy's going to get bail, and if Diddy doesn't get bail, he pretty much is going to have to sit for a few months, right? Remember, this new bail application came after they claimed they got discovery, and that was the new evidence that they said they wanted another bail application or bail hearing for, and they got it. So if they get told no now, they got to wait till the appeal goes through that's already been put in, and that might take 2 months or 3 months or whatever the case is, but we would assume he would be locked up for the rest of the year at least. And then when that circuit court either grants the appeal or denies it, we'll see what happens then. But if they deny the appeal, essentially Diddy is damn near done until Diddy would be pretty much almost damn near done until the end of the trial. Now, granted, they could do more appeals or more applications, but the likelihood of that just keeps dwindling, and then you kind of just end up wasting the time of the court and the judge, and also prolong your case and probably give a bitter taste in the judge's mouth about what you got going on. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right. Yeah, so if you guys don't know about federal court, there's no cameras in there, so they're on standby. And I believe that Law and Crimes is on hand.
They have the MDC on the laptop. There is a protective order. Interesting they're talking about this because one of the arguments put forward by Sean Combs' defense team is he doesn't have the adequate resources at the MDC to properly prepare for what is a complicated sex trafficking and racketeering trial. What is this exchange about, you think?
Right. I think they're probably pointing to an issue with privacy. And like you said, him being able to properly be able to put on his defense. You know, if he's someone who's in home detention, he can meet with his attorneys in fair confidence, you know, discuss things more freely. In prison, you're really not afforded those same privacy rights. So I think that's an argument that his team is going to be putting on.
Nima, I've got a question. This is from Sean D. Cole again on YouTube. Please keep the questions coming if you have a question about this hearing. If you have a question about this case, make sure to submit them now. This is, with this being the presiding judge, meaning Judge Arun Subramanian, is this Sean Combs' last chance for bail? I don't believe so. I believe that he could go to the Second Circuit and had petitioned the Second Circuit,
that's the appeal,
but then put it on pause, waiting for Judge Subramanian to ultimately decide this issue, right?
Yes. So when you appeal, that really removes jurisdiction and the ability of the trial court to make a decision. So obviously the case was transferred to Judge Subramanian, but they had appealed to the Second Circuit, which is the highest court before that appeal. But now what they want is another bite at the apple, see if the judge is going to disagree with the prior magistrate judge and district judge and actually release Combs on bail, which would be very surprising, in my opinion, before they take it up on appeal.
Elizabeth, I'll turn to you on that. Again, the reason we know some of what the defense's arguments are.
Okay, that's an interesting angle. So apparently they had to pause the appeal for this judge to view it again. Okay, we do have another update. Judge Subramanian says on the bail application, I don't have to deal with the Bulstani case. The defense is saying there's extensive conditions proposed, including 24/7 security. What about the Fox case? And the AUSA says there's no RICO charge in that case. Okay. Now, these are similar cases that Diddy brought in. And he essentially, his lawyers making the argument to say, look at these other cases where someone's charged with sex trafficking or similar crimes, and they were allowed to get a bond. Why can't Diddy get a bond, right? Diddy's down to do more, pay more, and make more appropriations to make sure everything's good. Why can't he get a bond, right?
Judge Subramanian says, on the bail application, I don't have to deal with the Bustani case. The defense is saying there are extensive conditions proposed, including 24/7 security. What about the Fox case? Prosecutor responds, there was no RICO charge in that case. The judge said agreed. So now they're going through some of the case law that was debated back and forth between the prosecution and the defense. You know, Nima, I think what's really...
I feel like I'm with these guys at Law and Crime right now. We're like collaborating.
Really interesting. One of the arguments put forward, they're relying on the allegations in the indictment. They're saying that he reached out to witnesses and victims. Don't you need to hold a hearing? Shouldn't you call witnesses to prove that? Now, it's not trying to, they don't have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. They're not trying to say he's guilty of obstruction, but doesn't there have to be more than just taking the government's word for it?
Not necessarily if the
bail
judge
hearing.
takes the government's word for it. And, we've talked about Jeffries, but I think the more on point case, recent case in New York is Sam Bankman-Fried. Here's someone who was granted bond, started contacting witnesses. There was electronic evidence to support that he was reaching out to witnesses and trying to alter and change their testimony. And his bond was revoked and he was in custody all throughout trial. So I think that's the case. Look, I believe the government that they have evidence that these witnesses are being contacted by Combs or through intermediaries. They're not going to raise these allegations unless they have the receipts to prove it. So hopefully they do so. But I don't think you need a full-blown evidentiary hearing in a case.
And here's the thing too: if they were gonna do all that with an evidentiary hearing, they would just charge him for witness tampering, right? Like if you're gonna do all that, you're gonna add another charge, right? Other than saying, we're monitoring this. We might not have all the details to put another charge, but it's enough to say don't give him bond.
It seemed to me he thought he was legitimately going to make bail, that he would be on house arrest for a year, 2 years till trial happened. I don't think he thought that this would actually be a reality, right?
I agree. And my theory is that all of these steps were taken by his attorneys and by his legal team to hopefully assure that they can show the judge, he's not a flight risk. He's put up this $50 million bond. He's prepared to put his home up for collateral. All of these steps he surrendered to his arrest. So all of these steps to put forward to try to argue this is not someone who's going to flee. He can be trusted with home arrest. So I don't think he anticipated this.
Going to that, Elizabeth, we just have another update from court. Again, we're providing live updates about what is happening in that court.
Yeah, and I think they're reading off the same thing I am, which is Inner City Press. And Inner City Press did say, what they said. Okay, so the judge says, I want you to address the proposed conditions. The AUSA says, hey, listen, there has to be some level of trust. Okay, all right, here we go. So, all right. There's no RICO check. Okay, so the judge says, I want you to address the proposed conditions. The AUSA says, well, there got to be some level of trust that a defendant will follow him. Here he will not. He cannot be trusted. Consider his conduct in custody after the two judges' findings. And the AUSA then says his attorneys are enabling his flouting of BOP rules. So they're basically saying his attorneys are allowing him to, or like enabling him to break BOP rules, which are the prison rules. Consider the labeling of the pads after the fact, right? So they're saying, they label the pads after the fact, right? Even the family members, okay? And the judge says, well, what's your response if Mr. Combs says, even if they don't trust me, there's 24/7 security? AUSA says, if he can't comply in a custodial setting, he will not comply if released. What type of security firm? They suggested a co-conspirator, one whose phone was taken only the day before. What? A second suggestion was a defense investigator in the case. What?
Communications, what the prosecution says. Is there any belief that he wouldn't manipulate a private security team that's supposed to watch him?
Yeah, that's
Of course, that's working for him as well. And like you said, that's an absolute rule violation. Can't use another inmate's PAC number, can't make three-way calls. And apparently he's doing all this. And when he was out, he contacted a witness dozens of times. So this is all evidence of obstruction. If I'm the government, what I do is I supersede, I add those obstruction charges, not necessarily because I think that's going to add additional time, but I think that's going to be helpful evidence for the jury to hear at trial that Diddy is trying to dissuade these witnesses. That's going to bring all that evidence in.
To show that he's guilty. Why would he be obstructing unless, of course, he thought he couldn't win this on the merits?
Yeah, but there's an easy explanation for that, right? The explanation is that, he's doing his own investigation. There's no proof that he offered these people money to change his statement or to, you could do an investigation yourself. And apparently his lawyer said multiple times, Mark Agnafilio, saying, when we knew that there was an investigation against Diddy, we stopped. Or there was or anybody who we were interviewing as a part of our investigation, when we knew that the government brought them to a grand jury, we stopped talking to them. And we would tell Sean Combs, don't talk to that person again. That happened for witness one, by the way.
Can't comply in a custodial setting, he will not comply if released. What type of security firm? They suggested a co-conspirator, one whose phone was taken only the day before. Didn't know that. That's who the potential security firm is. The second suggestion was a defense investigator in this case. And the prosecutor goes on to say that investigator has been out contacting witnesses. Essentially, they work for him. This would be the defendant buying his way out. The judge said, you've conceded that Bustani's bar does not apply here. You've cited his wealth to release him, so he can't use it. We'll get to that second argument in a second, but if that's true, this is who he was proposing to watch him?
Yeah, it's a fair point. And again, I think if you consider if he's, let's say, confined to his home and home confinement, I think there's even more opportunity for him to be able to utilize the team and the people around him, whoever they're working for, to be able to work within his favor. And also, this is not somebody who's going to be confined to a tiny little studio apartment. He has huge homes, huge estates. There's a lot of room for him to potentially go about continuing possibly the behavior that the prosecution is alleging he's already been doing.
One of the other interesting arguments that I love to talk about here, Nima, and I'm curious if it comes up, prosecutors said there's a two-tiered justice system. Why would it be fair that Sean Combs has the resources and the wealth to turn his home into a private prison, and he should be out waiting trial on sex trafficking and racketeering charges when somebody with lesser means wouldn't be able to do that and they don't get bail? Now, the defense says, wait a second. The only reason we're proposing such an expansive and expensive bail package like this is because of the very problems, the very concerns that the prosecution has. You say it's his wealth that's a concern. Well, we're going to show you, we're going to create such a package that alleviates any of those concerns. The reason it looks like this, and it's so expansive and includes 24/7 monitoring and all this, is because of what the prosecution said. You can't have a sword and a shield at the same time. You say he's wealthy, you say he has the resources to flee, to do what he wants. Well, we're going to use that to try to negate those concerns. Where do you stand with that, Nima?
Well, it's not a flight issue, but a danger issue, and no other defendant, and I don't think the Jeffries case is similar, would be released with these types of allegations. If we did, we'd be treating celebrities or folks with hundreds of millions of dollars differently because of their wealth. So I think that's a very strong argument for the government.
We have another back and forth that I want to tell you about. It's almost like the judge is listening to our back and forth, because this is what just happened. And by the way, I really, from a legal point of view, I really...
Yeah, the judge actually just said the same thing, right? Okay, so the AUSA says we're seeking his continued detention based on his wealth. We're not seeking his continued detention based on his wealth. We're rather seeking the continued detention based on the danger, risk of flight, and obstruction. And the judge says, is obstruction your main argument? AUSA says, no, it's danger to others. So the judge says, so not flight risk. It says, well, we rely on that too, basically saying we're using all three, but our main thing is going to be that he's a danger to others, right? Obviously, they're going to talk about the firearms or whatever. They're going to talk about maybe him threatening people. They're gonna probably talk about, rumors of him bragging to people about getting people knocked off and stuff like that. They're gonna use that. And then the second, so the obstruction is the second part, but usually that's a really important part, right? This is the reason why you never seen Young Thug mention Gunna during the whole trial, because that will definitely affect how someone, how the judge actually thinks you're gonna be a good boy if he lets you out of jail, essentially, right? Let me see if there's another update. If not, I'll put on. Okay. Right. Here we go. And then the judge says, tell me about obstruction. AUSA says, well, he's continuing to violate rules. The judge says, wait, is running a PR campaign obstruction? And AUSA, which, by the way, I agree. I do think that what do you mean? He's supposed to have his kids sing happy birthday to him. That's not having him look human. That's humanized him, right? How is that like obstructing the whole thing? AUSA says that's not what we have here. Rather, it's a concerted effort to impact the integrity of these proceedings. The judge, I think, is going to he's gonna hammer down on that. He's gonna hammer down on that. Watch.
Focus on those two, and obviously you don't want to concede anything, but really just focus on, because you only need one to win, right? And I think the danger is the strongest argument.
You mean you only need to convince the judge whether it's obstruction or risk of flight or danger? You don't need all three?
Generally, it's going to be danger or risk of flight, but the obstruction is important as well. So the standard is under federal law that detention is appropriate if there's no condition or combination of conditions that can guarantee the defendant's appearance at trial, and he or she is either a risk of flight or a danger to the community. Now, obstruction can come in as well, but it's typically danger.
Elizabeth, we have another update from court talking about obstruction. The judge says, tell me about obstruction. Is he listening to Law and Crime? Is there like something, does he have a microphone here or something? Tell me about obstruction. So he asks, he says, tell me about obstruction, prosecutor. Prosecutor Slavic says, he's continuing violation of the rules, meaning as we talked about what's happening or allegedly happening in jail. The judge says, is running a PR campaign obstruction? Meaning the social media posts. The prosecutor says that's not what we have here. Rather, it's his concerted effort to impact the integrity of these proceedings. Prosecutor says, he says, I want to reach the jurors. I need only one. Ah, so that's so interesting. That's the first time that we actually maybe heard, they said they would have evidence to prove that this social media campaign was about influencing the jury. So he allegedly, there's some communication from Sean Combs where he talks about, I only need one, meaning only need to convince one juror. The judge says he's not permitted to engage in any he's not permitted to engage in any conduct to impact the jury pool. That's what the judge is asking. Prosecutor says his intent, it's obstructive conduct. He's violated the so-called gag order. He's the one who asked for that order.
Right. I think the social media argument is a bit of a tough one to make. Again, as we've noted, he's a massive public figure. People have...
So it appears like they're ahead of inner city. They're ahead of inner city. Okay. Oh, no, never mind. Inner city has it. So inner city says, he says, I want to reach the jurors. I only need one. So he needs one juror to make sure he don't go to jail, right? The judge says, well, he's permitted to engage in any conduct to impact the jury pool, right? And the AUSA says, well, his intent, it's obstructive conduct. He's violated the so-called gag order, and he's the one who asked for such order. That's a good argument, too. I ain't gonna lie.
Disclose to the public. I mean, if you're posting about your birthday,
remember, the gag order said that the court couldn't leak videos or couldn't speak through anonymous sources or an investigator with the feds or some close source with the feds are saying this that could make Diddy look crazy. So they're saying if you put a mutual gag order on both of us, why does Diddy get to speak that way about through intermediaries, whether it's his kids or otherwise? That's kind of super important right there.
The order, and again, this is just not a good argument for the prosecution. I agree that him trying to influence jurors, that is, but just generally a blanket argument against a PR campaign and social media post, not good. No judge in this country is going to prohibit someone from posting on social media. Just so let's be honest, this is the biggest trial in the country right now, especially now that Donald Trump has won and his criminal problems have gone away. Nothing even compares to the Sean Diddy Combs trial. People are going to be talking about it. Everyone is covering it. Traditional social media. I've done dozens of interviews just on Law and Crime about it. So for a judge to say that you can't post on social media about your birthday with your family, I mean, forget about it. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
That's crazy.
No appellate court would uphold that order.
Clearly, you do not believe that Kanye West being sued for copyright infringement is the bigger case, and that's shocking. I didn't expect that from you. Okay, we have another update from court. This is from the prosecutor. The court entered the order on October 25th. He started his campaign on October 27th. He couldn't even comply for 2 days. The judge said, what about the What about the Jeffries Abercrombie case where the government agreed to release on $10 million bond? And then the prosecutor says, we did a letter. And by the way, that's the letter that we read before, where basically the government talked about distinguishing.
So, this is a letter that was filed today. This is in anticipation of this hearing. So the judges said, yo, we let out the Abercrombie CEO. Why shouldn't Diddy be let out? And they're citing the differences between this and that. Says the government respectfully submits this letter in advance of the hearing scheduled for today in connection with the defendant's renewed motion for bail and the response to the court's inquiry about the relevance of the bail package ordered with the government's consent as to defendant Michael Jeffries in this other case. For reasons stated below, the circumstances in the Jeffries are inapposite and provide no support for the defendant's bail application in this instant manner. On October 17th, the grand jury indicted this guy. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. It said Jeffries and his co-defendant operated in an international sex trafficking and prostitution business. He paid for dozens of men to blah, blah, blah. Okay, so cool. We know that. It says the defense argues his renewed bail motion is similar situated to Jeffries and should be similarly released. But beyond superficial similarities, the high-profile positions of the defendant and the sex trafficking charges, cases are definitely different for multiple reasons. And they're saying the first is while the Jeffries case alleges use of force, fraud, and coercion to engage men in non-consensual sex, there's no allegations of Jeffries committing non-trafficking related violent acts or that he used firearms during that period. They found Diddy with a gun. They accused him of being violent. The indictment against Combs alleges both. With respect to the charged offenses, Jeffries does not include a racketeering offense, and that's their main thing. They're saying, we got this guy for sex trafficking, right? What the fuck? Chat, what are y'all talking about right now? Man, y'all are still talking about Kendrick? Just give me a second. It says the indictment goes against Combs alleges both. With respect to the charged offenses, so they're basically saying it doesn't include a RICO charge, and that's the main thing.
Okay, so I want to be clear. Even though you're seeing tough questions for the prosecution, doesn't necessarily mean he's going to side with the defense and vice versa. Having said this, I'm going to read you the latest from court. The judge, the prosecutor, they're talking now about the 2016 video of Cassandra Ventura, or I believe that's what they're talking about. Because the prosecutor says, I think the better comparison is the two prior denials of bail here, but the judge said, what about the claim that the government spliced the video? Prosecutor said he apologized. That's the point. Remember, Sean Combs apologized on Instagram 2 days after CNN published that video of him purportedly beating Cassandra Ventura back in 2016. The judge said, why did you use the splice video, not the original? And the prosecutor said, it was public.
Ooh.
We wonder, is he open to the...
Whoa, I ain't gonna lie. That's a win for Diddy right there. Why are you using the out of sequence or out of order sequence video when you're presenting a case? Why would you use the CNN video when you actually have the raw video? Why not just present it in full? Unless you thought that the video that the news put out presented a narrative that you're trying to also adopt. So you use that edited video, but you didn't use the full video. Right? And then they basically try copying and paste. Well, he apologized anyway, which, by the way, remember everybody was criticizing Diddy's apology? And even some people said, if you're his attorney, why would you tell him to apologize? Because fuck the public court aspect of the court of public opinion aspect of things. You apologize and basically acknowledges that that's you, the video is real, you did do these things, right?
So, Nima, I'll give you a chance to respond, but here's another update. The cell phone footage, this is from the prosecutor. The cell phone footage was grand jury material, and we didn't want the defendant to be able to retaliate against the grand jury witness. We did add blurring of the victim's face. In 2016, the defendant bribed hotel security $100,000 to make it go away. Your thoughts on what we're hearing about this?
Yeah, I'm shaking my head because this is not edited. This is why this is important. First of all, we know that Sean...
Let me pause it. I could read all of this. So the AUSA then says, I think the better comparison is the two prior denials of bail here. The judge says, what about the claim? Okay, we read that already. So it says, the cell phone footage was grand jury material. What cell phone footage are they talking about? And we didn't want the defendant to be able to retaliate against the grand jury witness. We did add blurring to the victim's face. And I'm guessing this is that cell phone footage. I guess something must have been happening. Diddy and Cassie's arguing, and somebody recorded it. Diddy has that recording, and Diddy submitted it, and apparently they had it. Something of the sort. We did add blurring, and in this 2016 video, okay. And then AUSA says it doesn't matter if he threw the vase or the contents of the vase. He admitted to it and apologized for it. This took place in the middle of a freak-off. The U.S. has evidence a male commercial sex worker was in the hotel room at the time.
Sex trafficking.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that's going to be important for the prosecution to say.
Let me go back a little bit.
A violent episode because, the latest update from court, the prosecutor says, does it matter if he threw a vase or the contents of a vase? He admitted to it and apologized for it. This took place in the middle of a freak-off. The U.S. has evidence a male commercial sex worker was in the hotel room at the time. So they're really trying to say this is evidence of sex trafficking.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that's going to be important for the prosecution to say, you know, she wasn't just fleeing for any reason. It was specifically to flee a freak off. Because again, one of the things that the defense is going to try to push is that they were in the middle of a consensual act. Regardless, I think you also have, one of the things that was mentioned in the indictment was the multiple assaults that he allegedly inflicted upon women. This is clear evidence of that.
We have more questions from our YouTubers, the best YouTubers in the business. All right, Nima. This is a question from Sally on YouTube. Once Diddy finally goes to trial, how long do you think the full trial will last?
I think it's going to last about a month or so. I mean, the parties have given some estimates, about 3 weeks, I believe, for the prosecution and 1 week for the defense, if I recall correctly. That means I think the defense's case is entirely or mostly going to be based on the cross-examination of those witnesses. They're going to come after them very aggressively. Now, it's still pretty early to know who exactly the government's going to call. And that's important because you have individuals who have filed civil lawsuits. They're going to be cross-examined to say, this isn't about criminal justice. This is about money. So I'm sure the government is going to want to put their very best witnesses and victims on the stand because we know that the defense is going to come after them and come after them very aggressively.
All right, we have another update from court. This is from the prosecutor. This is devastating evidence for the trial. This is, again, the 2016 video. It shows why he cannot be released on bail. He is violent and is committed to covering up his crimes. The evidence against him continues to mount. We've learned of punching and kicking employees, partners. So, again, that danger element to the bail analysis. I do have a question, Nima, for you. This is from Sean D. Kolb, again on YouTube. Any chance for a plea deal, and is there any chance the judge will accept it? I'll give my thoughts, but first your thoughts.
I don't think there's much of a chance at all because for there to be a deal, it has to be something that Diddy would accept. And,
Right.
and when you're talking about these types of crimes, I mean, the sentencing guidelines are through the roof. Now, maybe he'll get less than the decades in federal prison, I said, if and when he's convicted. But this is someone that doesn't want to be in bail for even the next several months until trial in May. He's not going to voluntarily, give up his empire and concede this. By the way, let's go back and say why I don't think there's going to be a deal. Let's talk about Cassie Ventura, who demanded $30 million reportedly not to file a lawsuit when the statute of limitations.
Okay, another update here. So, so the AUSA says this is devastating evidence for the trial. Shows why he cannot be released on bail. He's violent and committed to covering up his crimes. The evidence against him continues to mount. We've learned of punching and kicking employees and partners. The judge says, Mark, what do you say about that? This is Diddy's lawyer. He says, well, I'm going to have Ms. Shapiro lead us off. Shapiro then says he was not dragging her back to the freak off. Okay. The judge says, but there was dragging. And the judge says, and Shapiro, and by the way, I think Mark Agnafilo throws it to Shapiro in an interesting angle. That video is so indefensible that it looks crazy. So you got to have a woman speak about it. So they get the female lawyer that's sitting there with Diddy, Alexander Spiro. By the way, Tenny Garagos, I don't know if she's in court, but she's Mark Garagos' daughter, but she's lead counsel too. But Shapiro, actually, she then addresses the video. He's not dragging her to the freak off. The judge says, but there is dragging. And Shapiro says, I don't mean to. And then the judge says, there was kicking. And Shapiro says, he has apologized. This is bad, right? The judge is asking these questions. It feels like they're just saying, but he apologized, sir. Who cares, right? Remember, this is not a matter of if he's guilty of that particular thing. It's about if he's going to get bail or not, which is going to be pretty interesting, right? Okay.
Hard, show him all sorts of evidence, including the video and all sorts of probing questions. So, yeah, I mean, this is a criminal case. This is not a civil lawsuit. So,
He took the stand in the 1999 nightclub shooting case, worked for him there, but kind of a different case here. Okay, so we have an update from court. The judge asks Mr. Agnifilo, this is Sean Combs' lawyer, Mr. Agnifilo. Mr. Agnifilo responds, I'm going to have Ms. Shapiro lead us off. This is the other defense counsel. And she responds, he was not dragging her back to the freak-off. The judge says there was dragging. Shapiro says, I don't mean to. Judge says there was kicking. And then Shapiro says he has apologized. Your thoughts about what the judge is getting to here?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Diddy had said when Cassandra Ventura filed her lawsuit, immediately, obviously, he denied it and said this was an extortion attempt. She was just trying to pull money out of me. Once the video surfaced, he was sort of backed into a corner, into apologizing. So I think what the prosecution's truly trying to get at is this is someone who will deny until he's backed into a corner. And I think what the judge is trying to pull is what are the potential reasons he admitted to it and apologized to it. Personally, I believe because he had no other choice.
Got a question from Alawani on YouTube. Will there be cameras for the trial at least? Nope, nope, and nope. Very disappointing. No cameras in federal courthouses, let alone in New York, except maybe in exceptional circumstances. But no, there's going to be no cameras in the trial. That's why we're doing our best right now to give you a sense of what's happening in that courthouse.
Okay. Wait, hold on. Okay. Then the judge says, what about the 2018 messages with victim one about violence? Now, we haven't seen these messages. I don't think so. But Combs' lawyer says, we've gathered more information about victim one even yesterday. I don't want to quote it because it's under seal. It should be. It was consensual. What? Now, what it seemed like it was is that these guys were getting into arguments and they were probably like videotaping each other, like secretly. Because Diddy submitted a 20-minute videotape, and that's under seal. And they're mentioning they don't want to quote something because it's under seal. But I'm thinking these are videotapes either of him and Cassie, maybe Cassie initiating stuff. We don't know if it's sex. We don't know if it's maybe arguments they're having where they're kind of showcasing her maybe in the same light you see Diddy. Yo, this is her attacking Diddy. This is her wilding out. So that's definitely a thing.
It's shameful. You saw that Agnifilo didn't defend Diddy when it came to violence against a woman, so they put a female defense lawyer to do that. So that's pretty common in these types of cases. That's why Shapiro started speaking. But we're talking about text messages from Cassie to Diddy. And again, going back to her lawsuit, and I believe her, she said that she was forced to have sex with male prostitutes while Diddy watched, videotaped, and masturbated. So I believe what she's saying, and there's text messages that corroborate her accounts of what happened. She has said to Diddy that I'm a human being, I'm someone's daughter, you beat me, you kicked me. That's all in text messages, and I don't think the defense can deny that.
Oh yeah, that was provided by the prosecution as examples of what was happening, and then also he allegedly threatened to. This is what the prosecution says. Exposed videos of the freak-offs if she didn't do what he wanted. Now, you're hearing the response from the defense. I've got a question from Ashley Glass on YouTube. Will the Law and Crime Channel be covering the case when and if it happens next year? We will do our best, given the circumstances of no cameras in that courtroom.
Yeah, this is where Inner City Press is like amazing because he's in court and apparently they actually limit electronic devices. You have to leave your phones outside of court. Except he's allowed to live tweet it, but he can't video it. He's actually been through a lot of like hearings with the government because they've kicked him out of like certain things, and I think he has a current situation with the UN and their proceedings. But they've allowed him to be able to, I don't know if it's using a phone, but something that he could just kind of like transcribe this whole thing. So this is why he's the only one transcribing shit. Okay, all right. Let's see what else. All right, so the judge says, I don't want to quote, I don't want to quote from them, but you know the ones I mean. The lawyer then says, we're proposing an independent security firm. There's been a mutual regrettable physical conduct going both ways. There was violence by this person and Combs allegedly. So they're both kind of agreeing. So they're saying that, yo, listen, I know you're seeing Diddy did some fucked up shit. And he was violent to her, but she was violent to him too. He has proof of that. She has proof of whatever. And they're kind of almost suggesting this is a wash, right? In terms of it's not just Diddy violating her. They had a very tumultuous relationship. It's toxic. It's left, right, left, right. She does something, he does something, and it's getting all over the place. That's what it appears is being mentioned here, right? Okay.
It's always a tricky kind of avenue, especially if you cross-examine Cassandra Ventura, how you paint your victim or alleged victim. It's tough in these sexual assault cases, but unfortunately, you have his life on the line. This is what you might have to do. Whether or not it would turn off a jury or judge, we'll have to see. Comment from Angela Maria. Jesse is devastated about no cameras. You're right. I am devastated. I have no shame in saying that whatsoever. Talk to me about, it's funny. Elizabeth, talk to me about the idea here. What would happen if they let him out on bail and get pretrial release, and then he ends up doing, what the prosecution says he does? He reaches out to witnesses again. He reaches out to victims. I mean, I imagine his bail will be revoked, but does that put the judge in kind of a bad position?
I would imagine it would. Again, the judge is guided by 2 prior judges saying this is too much of a risk. We can't let this person out on bail. And if the judge takes a chance and says, let's try home confinement, and then that happens, I think that would be devastating. And that would also really affect the potential outcome of the trial. Again, a big part of the indictment focused on the element of control and power that he had. So if Diddy is able to exert that same level of control and power over witnesses to try to block potential testimony, that could be devastating for the case.
And by the way, tell me if I'm totally crazy here, Nima, but his team was pushing for a trial to happen as soon as possible, presumably because he doesn't want to be, in jail for the next 2 or 3 years. Risk it, go to trial. They might think they have a good defense, but if he's granted bail today, are we going to see a motion tomorrow, Monday? Let's postpone the trial. Hey, I'd like to be on home confinement for as long as possible before going to trial. Am I crazy to think that, Nima?
You're not crazy at all, Jesse. And I think the major motivating factor to push this case to trial so quickly is the fact that Diddy is in custody. And frankly, one of the reasons that people on the defense bar, they don't like their clients being in custody is not just preparing for trial, but oftentimes defendants.
I also think one of the reasons that they want to push for a quicker trial is not only as this gentleman just said, but they're hoping they could speed up the process of a superseding indictment, right? So if a superseding indictment comes down, that's gonna have more stuff. Right now, the case is weak. If you ask me, it's weak. I mean, it's still circumstantial, but it's weak. It's only Cassie. I think he has a good argument. I was paying this woman all this amount of money, and essentially, after I paid her this amount of money, I cut her off after I found out she was cheating. When I found out she was cheating, I basically then, cut her off. She went broke, and now she's suing me. You have a good argument. Maybe some people will buy that. But if there's like 5 victims, if there's 8 victims, if there's 10 victims, remember in the R. Kelly cases I talked about when it came to New York, there was 9 victims, right? There's 9, or actually more than 9. Right, and even in the Illinois case, there was multiple victims, and usually a jury is going to look at like all these people ain't lying. So part of trying to get the trial as quick as possible is you hope it's just you versus Cassie, and I think Diddy's confident there. But if they add on so much stuff where even if those people don't have intimate moments or as much knowledge as say Cassie, it might be like, yo, bro, it's no way all 20 of these people are lying on you, bro. You did some shit, right?
Well, it's going to be the testimony of the witnesses, right? They got to show that force, fraud, or coercion. That's what separates consensual sexual activity between adults. It can be as freaky as the participants want, as long as it's consensual. So they need the testimony of the witnesses. But also, let's not forget, there's a lot of video evidence here, right? Diddy recorded these videos allegedly for his own sexual.
Okay. Then let's continue to read. Combs' lawyer Shapiro in the LaFontaine case from 2000. Okay, so this is Shapiro speaking right here. So this is the woman, Alexandra Shapiro. She says, in the LaFontaine case from 2000, the defendant told someone to lie by phone from the MCC. In the Gotti case from 1996, the head of the Gambino crime family, the witness received a kick in the ass. The government does not have that here. And I guess they were trying to say, How is he obstructing when they're not presenting any specific thing where Diddy's saying, contact this person, hit up this person, go do this with this person? That's just not a thing. And they then said, we cited Trump's case. Okay, the defendants have a greater right to speak than their lawyers. An Instagram post as well, I don't know if I can. Now, they cited Trump's case, Diddy's lawyer, in the bail appeal, or not bail appeal, but the bail application. I'm going to tell you why. Because during the whole time, Trump was cussing out the judge and essentially cussing out the prosecutors. And they're using that to say, yeah, he's former president of the United States, but just like how he wasn't, reprimanded for doing such, probably because he was a former president at the time. Now we realize he's going to be a future president, but he wasn't reprimanded, and he's a normal citizen at the time. They're using that for Diddy to say, why are you going to reprimand Diddy? If Trump could cuss out the judge and cuss out the prosecutors, why can't Diddy lawyers say something about whatever, or why can't Diddy say whatever he wants? Okay, yeah. Okay, I don't know why they went to the outside view. Okay, let's see. Maybe they're going to go on a break. Who knows? All right. Give me a second. Okay, cool. Then Combs' lawyer then says this is covered by the First Amendment. Messages they point to are not instructions to lie. They're a barrage of negative media coverage. He has a right to respond to that. The judge says, why doesn't he respond through his counsel? And they're saying, we're happy to do that. Now, I'm on Diddy's side with this. If the government is leaking videos and putting up edited videos that's making you look crazy, and investigators historically, while the case was really bubbling, was saying, oh, yo, some of the tapes, this is on it, blah, 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 and they're making everybody feel you're guilty, why can't you put out positive stuff about yourself? Or why can't you put out messages through, like, seeded in the press to say, yo, that attorney's lying on me. He's also an abuser, or, hey, they're playing dirty or playing dirty. I kind of agree. Like, him responding to his lawyers makes him seem a little, we're not going to believe the lawyers. Lawyers getting paid. Okay. Yeah, so, all right, bet. Now, what's this? Not too sure why this is here.
But Elizabeth Vula.
People, obviously that's what they're going to claim. I think it all depends on what's in those notes, which we're not going to know about for weeks on end, and what evidence the prosecution has in terms of what did he say. They're saying that they have intercepted recorded calls of him trying to instruct witnesses about what to say. So, I think it's a tough one.
All right, Nima, I want to get another question from you before I have to sign both of you off. We have two new guests that are coming in a minute. We'll take a quick break, but before we do, Nima, this is a question from Ivy D on YouTube. What is the prosecution's counter-argument against it being consensual behavior?
Well, it's going to be the testimony of the witnesses, right? They got to show that force, fraud, or coercion. That's what separates consensual sexual activity between adults. It can be as freaky as the participants want, as long as it's consensual. So they need the testimony of the witnesses. But also, let's not forget, there's a lot of video evidence here, right? Diddy recorded these videos allegedly for his own sexual gratification, but also to maintain control over the victims. But I really think the game changer in this case, Jesse, is if there's a superseding indictment alleging the sex trafficking of minors. That takes consent out the window.
That changes the whole game. All right, so we're going to take a break. We're going to continue covering these updates from what's happening in that courtroom.
So they're taking a break. The court proceeding doesn't seem like it's taking a break. Let's see if we have any other updates. Okay, cool. We do. So Combs' lawyer Shapiro says, but we're lawyers. It's not what we really do, basically saying we don't play PR. And by the way, I could imagine Diddy probably told his lawyer, especially after his lawyer went on TMZ and was like, yo, maybe he got it from Walmart. And Walmart was like, nigga, we don't got that shit over here, nigga, or Costco or whatever he said. And, he stopped speaking on behalf of Diddy. And I do think they should have a PR firm who's speaking on his behalf, but I guess not. It says, but we're lawyers and it's not what we do. Some of these recordings show that he's telling people some of these recordings show that he's telling people, just tell the truth. Talk with my lawyer. And the judge says, victim 3, you're saying the communications are fine? And Shapiro says, same on witness 1 and 2. Basically saying if Diddy ever had any communications with these witnesses while there was an investigation going on, or not witnesses, but victims. Oh, no, witnesses, actually. He never told him to lie. He said, tell the truth. And if anything, just speak to my lawyer. If you have a question you need from me, but just speak to my lawyer. But he never told him to lie. He never told him to say something they didn't want to say. Now, the government, I hope they come back with this, because the government claimed that Diddy was damn near almost proofreading what or called 128 times before Kalina did a statement, like basically almost saying, all right, you gonna post it this time. What are you gonna say? And let's see if they have proof of that. You get what I'm saying? This is outside the shit. Okay, cool. All right. So essentially they're saying they're not PR. We will see, man. Are they coming back? I think they're coming back here. All right. So what's the next topic? We're just covering this until we get to a resolution. It'll probably happen within like an hour or two, if you ask me. Here we go.
Diddy Combs case. Right now, this is a live look of the federal courthouse in downtown New York, where the issue of Sean Combs' bail is being discussed. Now, of course, as we know, that has been denied multiple times by other judges, but this is the first time the current judge overseeing this case, Judge Arun Subramanian, is actually deciding this issue. And we're seeing back and forths between the prosecution and the defense on this. I say seeing, there are no cameras in that courtroom. Our very own Elizabeth Milner is inside that courtroom. She's going to come out a little bit later, tell us what she saw, what she heard. But what we are doing right now is providing you live, real-time updates about what is happening in that courtroom. There is reporting coming back, so I want to get into it right now. Really interesting about what's happening. Let me bring in criminal defense attorneys Brian McMonigal and Bradford Cohen, attorneys to the stars. Great to have you, gentlemen. So let me tell you about what is happening right now. So,
my boy Bradford on the joint.
Alexandra Shapiro is having a back and forth with Judge Subramanian. I'm going to read everybody the forth. So first, defense attorney Shapiro says, we cited the Trump case. Defendants have greater rights to speak than their lawyers. An Instagram post, as well as I don't know if I can, and then the judge says his communications from the MDC, the Metropolitan Detention Center. Shapiro says he says the prosecution is motivated by racism. So let me just be clear about this. There's a conversation, there's a discussion about what was he saying, maybe on telephone calls to other people while he's been locked up at the MDC. The other question is, was he orchestrating a social media campaign using his family to post things online that might potentially influence a jury? So keeping that in mind, Ms. Shapiro, again, Sean Combs' lawyer, says, this is covered by the First Amendment. Messages they point to are not instructions to lie. There is a barrage of negative media coverage. He has a right to respond to that. The judge asks, why not through counsel? Shapiro says, we're happy to do that. Shapiro says, but we're lawyers. It's not really what we do. Some of these recordings shows that he's telling people, just tell the truth, talk with my lawyer. And then the judge says, victim 3, you're saying the communications are fine? And Shapiro says, yes, same on witness 1 and witness 2. The judge says, what about the communications that are missing? Agnifilo, this is Mark Agnifilo, this is Sean Combs' other lawyer, says, witness 1 reached out to Mr. Combs' counsel and asked us for a lawyer. We didn't do anything along those lines because it was an odd request. I don't know the factual answer. The judge responded, how do you know not now? How do you know no? Or how do you not know, maybe?
I want to hear what the lawyer has to say.
How did you not know? And Sean Combs' other lawyer, Tenny Garrigo, says, there was a message from Mr. Combs to witness 1. I'll like to give it to you under seal. Prosecutor Foster may know it does not give rise to the level of obstruction. I do not have the actual message. Brian, I'll start with you. A lot of back and forth here. It's about whether or not his communications are a form of obstruction. It's about whether or not him even initiating a social media campaign would be to improperly influence a jury. This all goes to the issue, is he a danger on the outside? Is he flouting the rules inside? He cannot be released outside. What are you taking away from this back and forth I went through?
Well, the fact that they're debating it is healthy for him. It sounds like our judge here is trying to give a real fair analysis to all this. And this is a collision between First Amendment rights, as far as I'm concerned, and some of the requirements under bail, if there should be bail given. You're not supposed to have contact with witnesses. You're certainly not supposed to intimidate witnesses, but you're also able to defend yourself and marshal a defense and speak your mind as a defendant. And judges always have a very difficult time trying to balance those two constitutional issues. And I think this judge is struggling with it because this is a man who's on trial for his life. His liberty's been taken away from him, and he's fighting back. And that would be something that one would expect of someone who's been accused of heinous crimes. So I think that today is probably, as I think you've described it, really the first opportunity for there to be a healthy debate on why he should be released.
And Bradford, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to that as well. I do want to let you know there was another update where Ms. Garagos, who again is one of Sean Combs' attorneys, says, my client obeys me. For example, on victim 3, he stopped using ASAP and other phone lines. The messages with witness 1 were pre-arrest. He obeys us. He came to New York. In the Bureau of Prisons, when I tell him not to do something, he does it. So in other words, if you have concerns about him flouting the rules, he will listen to us. We'll tell him what to do. What do you think?
I think that's an argument that I've often made, and I think a lot of defense attorneys make in terms of that our clients will listen to us if we tell them what to do and what not to do. And in certain circumstances, you have clients that have not been in a situation like this before, where they're in custody, where they are getting a barrage of allegations against them. Some may have some basis of truth and some may not. And you've seen that over and over again in this case. There have been reports of different things that went on and different allegations against Sean Combs that they have then found out these are just rumors and they're not true. I think that it's not a bad thing when a PR company or even when a defendant takes it on himself to have family members talk about the good thing that he's done in the past and the charitable things that they've done in the past. When you have a case like this, where they are just every day, there's something that is coming out, something that is leaked by either the government or a party that's involved or someone that's interested in the case, where it is affecting, that could have affected a jury. I think that, that release of that Cassie tape, and I keep going back to that release of that Cassie tape, I think the tape was released because they knew that she was going to be somewhat blamed for the behavior that happened, that they would know that she would participate in these different things with different individuals, and they wanted to make sure that was cut off at the pass and essentially make her a victim and not a co-defendant. And I think that's why that tape was eventually leaked by whatever party that leaked that tape. A lot of not going back to that. No one's really discussed how that tape has come out, and I think it's an interesting thing. And especially when you have a judge that's interested in your story, and you have a prosecution that is interested in why.
You also have Diddy's lawyer who said, I submit that the charges in the Jeffries and Abercrombie case are worse than here. Oh, shit. They're saying he has worse charges than here. They're saying they allege an international sex trafficking business. They were R-worded and forced to engage in anal sex in Eastern District. How do you figure out which case is worse? Interesting.
Be all that he's going to grant him bond. I don't know. I think this is a tough hill to take. I think it's an uphill battle whenever you have an individual that's facing the type of time that they're facing and the type of allegations to get a bond. Certainly the bond package is pretty extensive in my opinion. A $50 million bond is nothing to sneeze about.
And to go into that, about one of the areas where I think Judge Subramanian seems to be receptive. He actually told prosecutors early this week, be prepared to talk about this. It's coming up right now, and Brian, I'll ask you about this. So this, Ms. Shapiro, who's Sean Combs' lawyer, says, I submit the charges in the Jeffries Abercrombie case are worse than here. They allege an international sex trafficking business. They were raped and forced to engage, and I'm not going to say, but in a certain kind of sex acts. And by the way, the argument here is, and this is what the Judge Subramanian said, is distinguish prosecution, why it is Sean Combs, after putting forward a bail package, as we said, $50 million, 24/7 private security firm, limited visitors, visitor logs, no internet use, no phone use, why is he denied bond when you have Mike Jeffries, the former head of Abercrombie & Fitch, who was just arrested and charged with sex trafficking? Why is he out on $10 million bail? And by the way, the prosecution responded earlier and they had a back and forth about this. He's 80 years old. Sean Combs is 55 years old. Sean Combs is charged with racketeering. He's not charged with racketeering. Sean Combs has alleged instances of prior violent behavior, not the instance with Mike Jeffries. But here you're seeing, Brian, where they're saying, we actually think the Jeffries case is worse. What do you make of that?
Well, it's brilliant. And I think that's the road they have to travel because it's precedent. You know, you're not supposed to have different rulings for like-minded cases. Disparity in treatment is always frowned upon in the federal courts. And here they have a significant public interest case where bail was set at $10 million by agreement. It wasn't debated over. The government agreed to it. Now we come over to Sean Puffy Combs' case, and they're objecting to 5 times that amount for someone who I don't believe has ever been convicted of a federal crime or a felony. I could be wrong about that. And they're putting restraints in place that make the previous bail package pale in comparison. So they're right to make this argument. It's precedent. It's precedent within that jurisdiction. And I think the judge is going to look hard at it. You know, you've now got 2 rulings that have gone against him. So he's got to look at those rulings and those judges. But he's also got a situation where the government has agreed to bail in a situation that's, if it's not as bad, it's pretty darn close by accusation.
Mm-hmm. And look, I think they, you know, look, it's also a different court. This is a different, this is the Southern District of New York. That was the Eastern District of New York. But even you put that difference aside, this seems to be one of the more compelling arguments put forward by the defense. Bradford, we're also taking questions, by the way. So anybody who has questions about this case, submit them on YouTube. If you have questions about the hearing, submit them. We have this interesting question from Sahara Useri on YouTube. Why did Combs get a new judge to begin with? It's interesting, right? Because I believe you had a district court judge or a magistrate judge, then a district court judge, now judge.
They have the black judge, Andrew Lamar Carter. They took him off for the Submarinian guy.
The assignment of a case like this. Why is it now in the hands of Judge Arun Subramanian? Why do you see this happen, Bradford?
Well, on federal cases, we always appear to begin with in front of a magistrate. That's usually the first person who hears the case, if it's a bond issue and or if it's even a preliminary issue. A lot of times court judges will give magistrates the power to rule over different kind of motions to suppress and motions to dismiss. But we always go in front of a magistrate that's associated with the judge. And then generally you then go to the judge that's going to have your case. It just depends. Sometimes you go to a temporary judge until it gets assigned. A lot of times judges don't have time for the type of case that it is, or they might not have the schedule that will behoove a trial in a certain period of time. I believe that this trial is being set for April, and it might be the other judge that was assigned already has a case that's set for April. That's not uncommon. I don't see that as like unusual. We've seen that in many cases. I've had many cases where judges have changed at the beginning of the case. It's usually unlikely that at the end of the case that you have a judge that'll change once they've heard motions and once you've done discovery and things of that nature. But I don't find anything of that unusual. Magistrates are always common. You always go in front of a magistrate first, and those are usually randomly assigned. And then a judge is randomly assigned, and then another judge can take over at any time. It's not that big of a deal.
And by the way, I wish we had cameras in the courtroom, but based purely on the arguments that we're seeing and have seen with Judge Subramanian, I feel confident to say this feels like a very fair, well-reasoned judge. the way he was pressing the prosecution, the way he's been pressing the defense, it's really something to take note of. And that's kind of the judge, that's exactly the kind of judge you want in these cases. There's a question that we have from Samian on YouTube. I'm curious, Jesse, why did the prosecutor not reference the R. Kelly trial? They might not have referenced it today, but it was in their filings. I think it was even in the very first bail filing. They referenced the R. Kelly case. They referenced the Jeffrey Epstein cases as why it would justify bail for Sean Combs. Here's another question. I'll throw this over to you, Brian, from Europes Hunar on YouTube. If Diddy gets out of bail, does that mean that he gets out immediately, like this hour?
Nah, he would get processed. All right, cool. Or the order would have to go in, then they would go through the whole thing to pay it. All right, cool, let's go. The lawyer then says, while in the Jeffries case, one defendant is 80 and the other one's 71, Combs 55. I hate to say it, that it's not young. The U.S. suggests he won't follow conditions. That's what the judge is saying. And then they continue by saying these conditions are more restrictive than in prison. So they're kind of pushing back against some of these conditions, right?
You know, some judges recognize,
or actually just saying, hey, listen, yeah, he could take notes and leave notes around, and as long as he's not communicating with people, specifically the witnesses, which there is no proof of, right? After he knew they were grand juried, he could write whatever he wants in a notebook, right? That's what I'm hearing.
that are more thoughtful and more fair-minded, issue written opinions, which he may do in this case.
We have another update from court. Ms. Shapiro, again, defense counsel for Sean Combs. While in Jeffrey's case, one defendant is 80 and the other is 71, Mr. Combs is 55. I hate to say it. It's not that young, because that was one of the things the prosecution said. Like, you're dealing with an 80-year-old. Yeah, you're dealing with an 80-year-old. You're dealing with an 80-year-old. He's 55. He's much younger. He's more of a danger. The judge says the U.S. suggests he won't follow conditions. Shapiro says these conditions are more restrictive than in the prison. Again, I kind of laid out what some of the conditions are. Bradford, your thoughts?
I think the argument that one guy's 80 and one guy's 55 is, if I was a judge, I think that would fall on deaf ears. The 80-year-old might be more willing to do something crazy because he's 80. It's like he only has so much time left. Anytime you give an 80-year-old is going to be a life sentence. So if the guy gets 5 years and he's 85 years old, that's not that young. So the argument itself is not great about the age. I think the stronger argument is maybe that in the RICO charges, they're charging some sort of violent behavior. That's probably a stronger argument because the Abercrombie & Fitch CEO doesn't have a history of alleged violence or participation in violence. But the allegations of the sex trafficking are very, very, in my opinion, are worse for the CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch. And it's just, it's funny that it just by happenstance, these cases happen together. If it didn't happen together, you'd have nothing to compare it to. You'd have to go back to a different sex trafficking case that someone didn't get bond. So it just so happened that this worked out for Sean Combs, where the Eastern District comes to an agreement on the CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch, and it works in his favor. I think that you have to lean very heavily on this guy could make a run for it at any time, right? It's not just that he's a danger. It's also that he's a flight risk, they were arguing. He could have made a run for it at any time. He has jets. He could have gone to Mexico. He could have gone anywhere, and he never did. He surrendered when he was supposed to surrender. In fact, they didn't even allow him to surrender. They picked him up at night.
Yeah, piggybacking on what Bradford Cohen is saying, I think the government has a good point with that. This guy might be dangerous, and they said that's the number one reason. We haven't really gotten into that yet, like about him beating up people or threatening people. But the obstruction part is kind of coming in thin. You got to have something where it really looks like Diddy's trying to pay people off. Other than those phone calls, which his lawyers have both sent in declarations explaining. You got to do a little bit more to say this guy isn't doing that.
Jake, as this judge
is doing that, actually.
Fairly new to the bench, so I think that benefits Sean Combs as well.
It's interesting you say that, because I want to read you the latest from court right now. So the judge says, Mr. Agnifilo, where is the home he'd be in? So again, if you're talking about home confinement, Agnifilo says, I don't want to give the address, but it's on Star Island. There's a causeway. This is in Florida. This is Miami. There's a docks, but there's a dock, but there would be no boat. The judge responds, that's not going to work. We're in New York. Agnifilo says, give me a moment. He comes back and he says, there is an apartment on the Upper East Side. We have one available, 3 bedrooms. The judge says, where are the 24/7 security going to be? That Agnifilo says, would you like to speak to him or me? It's Patriot Security. They merged with Crisis 24. So, Brian, now, is this just the judge doing his full due diligence about understanding what bail would look like, or is this kind of potentially a sign of—
Yeah, it might be a sign that he's leaning towards bail. What we can take from this is that the judge is saying him being on Star Island, that $50 mansion, that's not going to happen. He's going to have to be holed up, not really holed up because he's still going to be luxury. He's going to be in an apartment in New York City that he could come back and forth to court, especially for any emergency hearing, and that he's going to be within the jurisdiction of New York City, that if any of the agents associated with Southern District need to pick him up or whatever for any reason or check on him, they could easily have access. So they're not going to let him go to Florida, clearly, based on the judge's question about that. So they're saying there's an apartment on Upper East Side, and then they're asking about the security. Here's what he said. He says there'll be 2 security. That's what Diddy's lawyer is saying. There'll be 2 securities in the apartment, 1 downstairs, so a total of 3. No access to phones or internet except for calls with counsel arranged by security personnel. This is more restrictive than MDC. Let's hear the back and forth for that.
Discovery, that the defendant doesn't get discovery, that the defendant doesn't have the opportunity to defend himself with counsel. All those issues go away for you as a judge. He's not running anywhere. And if they're right, and he's foolish enough to engage in threatening behavior while he's out on bail, that will be the first piece of evidence they introduce at his trial. So I think the judge is a pretty smart guy, and I think he well realizes that the original bail package probably should have been something that they gave serious consideration to. You know, he's presumed innocent. You know, that presumption of innocence all of a sudden fades away when we talk about celebrities. But he's presumed innocent in this case, and bail is for people that are presumed innocent, and he is.
And from the prosecution's point of view, you know, in one hand, if he is let out, engages in obstruction, they can not only have the bond revoked, but gives them more evidence for potentially a superseding.
Now, let's be clear. If Diddy's in like some mansion apartment, you know, he doesn't have a phone, but everybody else is going to have their phone. Like, they're not saying no phones could permit the apartment and he can't leave the apartment. They could have phones in there. He just can't have one. You know what I mean? Speakerphone. You know what I mean? Like, yo, Diddy's not using a phone, but maybe he's randomly talking while somebody has somebody that he would want to talk to on speakerphone. And by the way, here's the thing. Because this is the confines of his home, maybe this has happened. I don't know that it ever is required that once you're on house arrest that you have to keep every communication within the house monitored. So you could put a camera by the jail cells. You don't necessarily have to have a camera recording everything he says in his own house.
Sometimes there are preconceived notions, and the judge has kind of already made up their mind while you're arguing, and you can see it in their face.
Yeah, the judge is pretty fair. I think that's what he's getting at.
You know, what seems to be a fair shake, but ultimately they have made up their mind. In this case, as the argument is progressing and his attorneys are adding on to the bail package that he's not going to have any contact with anybody. He's not going to have any phones. And a lot of times when I have clients, high-profile clients in federal or state court, and I offer 24-hour security, I usually hire FBI, ex-DEA, you know, and I'm sure the company that he has is probably along those same lines that give credibility to the security that's going to be watching him and you know, making sure who's checking in and who's signing out and things of that nature. All those things add up in a judge's mind to assure them that they're doing everything possible to kind of stay out of the way and not get in trouble. I honestly do think, listening to what's going on, the judge is giving serious consideration to allowing him out on bond, which to me is a surprise, because a lot of times in federal court, you don't get that fair shake. You know, when you have these allegations and you're representing someone who's high profile, a lot of times these judges have made up their minds. I mean, we want to feel like every judge is fair. We want to feel that the judicial system is fair, but a lot of times that the judges have already made up their minds, and it's very difficult to get a bond on this case. And I think that his defense attorneys are doing an excellent job in putting together this bail package and explaining it to the judge and coming up on, and often you find yourself doing this, coming up on the fly where the judge says, hey, that's not going to work. Florida's not going to work. I need something else. And it's like, yeah, I got an apartment on, the Upper East Side. It's a 3-bedroom apartment. We're going to put them in. That's not easy to do. And it is a hats off to his defense for coming up with those things on the fly and being able.
I'm going to be honest. His defense attorney's looking a lot better now that he's only operating in court and he's not talking to the media. And I think that's Diddy that probably told him, shut the fuck up. No more interviews, no more documentaries, no more press conferences.
You could just, where am I? Where's this case happening? Yeah, I got a property around the corner. Let me ask you this. So this was brought out by the prosecutors earlier on where they said, okay, want to talk about the security team? So they say, because the judge asked, what are we talking about? They said, what type of security team? He's suggesting a co-conspirator, one whose phone was taken only the day before. The second suggestion, was a defense investigator in this case. That investigator has been out contacting witnesses. Essentially, they work for him. So the reason I bring that up is because the judge just said the government is saying Mr. Combs would be paying these people. It comes down to trust. Mark Agnifilo, again, Sean Combs' defense counsel, says it's a different relationship. There are professionals that are only going to be in his life for 8 months. It's a high-profile case. He goes on to say he's been in jail 66 days without a laptop. He only got one a few hours ago. What is unique here?
Also, another update that came through. Diddy's lawyer says Diddy will avoid all contact with anyone who may be a witness. I think he has a right to do that, but I want to make it easy for the court as possible. We're going to investigate thoroughly before the May 5th trial. I think he has a right to assist. So basically saying Diddy won't reach out to no witnesses, but we are investigating. Judge Summarian says the government is saying that Mr. Combs will be paying these people. Okay, it comes down to trust. And I'm guessing they're saying about the security team that's going to be working for him, that's going to be monitoring him. And they're saying, well, it's a different relationship. These are professionals that are only paid, that are only going to be in his life for 8 months. It's a high-profile case. And Agnifilo says, well, he's been in jail for 66 days without a laptop. He only got one a few hours ago. What's unique here is that is to have waited 9 weeks to get a laptop in the MDC. The judge says the solution is for you to come to me, and we can call these hearings to get things done. So it looked like the judge is also on the other side saying, yo, well, if he has a problem in jail, now we're not talking about the food and this and third, and he wants more rec time. But if he can't get access to discovery, I could make an order to have the government present him certain things, right, that he needs to prepare for trial with.
I'm surprised if that's not the case.
Right.
And knowing Mark, as I do, who's a preeminent lawyer, they'll make sure it is the case. If they've already provided a team, they'll get a better team. If that's an issue with the judge.
Let me ask you this, Brian.
And Jesse.
I'll ask you both this because this is a question that we got from one of our YouTubers, Floss Daily. Who pays the security company? If Diddy's paying it, is that a conflict? I'll allow either one of you to address that. If Bradford, you want to address that?
Yeah. Sure, yeah, because I was going to add in, it's an absolutely great question. And what I do is to kind of take out the stench of any kind of impropriety that you think could go on. I figure out, okay, if it's 24-hour security for 8 months, it's going to be $250,000, $350,000, whatever it's going to be. And I instruct my client that we put that money in my trust account, and that or a company is hired to pay them separately from just the defendant. So they're not relying on the defendant to get a paycheck. It kind of takes that sting out. I mean, there's always going to be a sting of, hey, I'll give you an extra $1,000 if you do X, Y, Z. You can never kind of get rid of that kind of thing. But you can take out one of the links in the chain and say they're going to be getting their paycheck from either ADP or they're going to get the paycheck from my law firm, but they're not going to be relying on the defendant to get paid, and they can't be threatened like, hey, you're not getting a paycheck unless you let me use your phone. a lot of times that also helps in these situations where a judge is asking about, how is this going to work with this 24-hour security, and they're going to be behooving to him because he's the one who's paying it. I think it takes.
Yeah, here's the reality about it. I've seen people on house arrest, and they have supposed hired security. The security is pretty much at liberty to the person who's hiring them, whether they're getting paid directly or not. They know the guy you're protecting is the boss. So in jail they treat the inmate like, yo, we don't work for you. Like, yo, you're just another one of the people here. Well, that's not going to be the case if you're paying these people. And by the way, you're paying them 24 hours a day. You're paying extra for overtime. You're paying because it has to be a schedule that has to be maintained. You're paying a good amount of money. This is private. You're paying a good amount of money. They're not going to treat you like shit. They're not going to talk to you like the COs. They're going to develop a rapport with you. Like, I'm pretty sure, I guarantee this. The security that's working in Diddy's crib, if Diddy's like, yo, bro, could you get me some water? They're going to get him some water. You get what I'm saying? If he's like, yo, hey, yo, could you pass me this? They're going to pass him this. I'm pretty sure if they said, yo, could you tell somebody at the front desk that I got this being delivered? Could you tell them to bring it up? They're going to do it. And that blurs the line, because you're not just only security that's almost like tantamount to a CO. You're kind of, like you work for this guy. Yeah, you have to do certain things, but maybe not completely break the rules, but you might bend the rules a bit. You know what I mean? And you start doing things for them. You can't tell a CO like, nigga, do A, B, C, and D for me unless they're clearly breaking the rules, right?
Every week or two with a complaint about discovery. He didn't get his computer. We've got so many terabytes to go over. We don't have the ability to defend. It puts so many issues into a case that can be easily resolved with agreeing to the bail package. So it was just another thought.
And
yeah, Brian's 100%
Yeah,
correct.
Bradford, jump in on that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 100% correct. So first of all, there's been cases in New York. I've had cases in New York where we've recommended private security and got granted private security. And around the country, when you look at these high-profile cases, there's been many, many cases where private security. One of them is NBA YoungBoy, who had a case in Louisiana. He had private security as part of his bail package in Utah. Kodak, who I represented, he had a private security as part of his bail package. It's happened many, many times. And I think the number one takeaway that Brian is so right on is that this searching of his jail cell was so very stupid by the government, and they just can't help themselves. Like it's really sometimes, they can't help themselves. Even when they have cases that they feel are good, they want more.
Well, just to be fair, they said this sweep of the MDC was comprehensive. It wasn't just aimed at Sean Combs. His defense team says it was a pretext, but just to give you the other argument.
I have a very cheap bridge for sale for you. Listen, I think that this was. I think he was a pre-target. I find it very hard to believe that it wasn't. You had a specialist that was there that normally is not there. He's taking pictures of items that have nothing to do with what they're searching for, phones and drugs and things of that nature. I find that very hard to believe, and it just is shocking sometimes when you look at the government when they have so much power. They have so many assets that they can use to obtain guilty verdicts, and they want more. They always want more, and in this case, I think this bit them in the behind. I think that the only reason this judge is being so I don't want to say he's being so reasonable. The only reason that this judge has considered some of these arguments, I think, and they're not falling on deaf ears, is partly because of the prosecution's dream that this was just, this was something that was going to happen, and we didn't mean to get his notes. And even though we had his notes, we had a team. We put up a Chinese wall. They have every excuse in the book. But once you taint a case with something like that, it's very hard to regain a judge's trust. And I think that's why a lot of these questions are being asked of the prosecution. And in addition to this guy who got out, the CEO of Abercrombie & Fitch, I just think a lot of things came together for Sean Combs to give him this opportunity, and this is his best shot.
So we have another update from court where the prosecutor has now jumped in and said, consider witness one a participant in multiple freak-offs. Defendant continued to contact witness one after counsel was retained. The Instagram post was planned for a week using Contact Me ASAP and other inmates' codes. Really, really interesting there about that, basically suggesting that Sean Combs is engaging in obstruction. I wanted to ask you, we have a question from one of our viewers that I think is fascinating.
That's interesting. It says, somebody says, has there been other cases with private guards? Hold on. It says, I have a whole presentation about the tape, but you've got enough already. I can save everyone 15 minutes. The judge says, I've reviewed it. Who is here from the pretrial services team? They says, we maintain the conditions. So they're saying that the conditions that Diddy is facing, they're saying they're saying the conditions being offered are insufficient of what they think someone who should be detained. But even if it's on house arrest, it would be insufficient based upon Diddy's wealth and everything else. The judge says, has there been other cases with private guards? And the pretrial says, not that I'm aware of. Interesting. By the way, I think they're also adding some notes. Note, they're in the UN corrupt case, blah, blah, he got massages with doors closed while confined in blah, blah, blah apartments. So apparently inner city press is saying there has been. AUSA then says, consider witness one, a participant in multiple freak-offs. Defendants continue to contact witness one after counsel was retained. The Instagram post was planned for a week using... Which Instagram post? I guess they're talking about a birthday post using Contact Me ASAP and other inmates' codes. The AUSA then says his family member said the lawyers say not to do it, and the defendants say, I don't care. It's my birthday. The judge says Ms. Shapiro said sharing codes is common, and the conduct is covered by the First Amendment. AUSA says the BOP handbook prohibits this. So basically, Diddy's own lawyers are they're kind of saying, I know he's breaking prison rules, but everybody breaks prison rules, right? And breaking prison rules doesn't include, it shouldn't affect the main case while you're here. And since there's no tampering, okay, cool, maybe he's not the best inmate, but we shouldn't use that to prejudice him.
The rules at the Bureau of Prison, what makes you think he won't violate the rules of his bail? The reason I say that is because the prosecutor said his family member said the lawyers say not to do it, and the defendant responds, I don't care, it's my birthday. This is in regards, presumably, to that whole social media campaign about surrounding his birthday and the birthday video. So the idea would be he just didn't care, he violated the BOP rules. The judge said, Ms. Shapiro said sharing codes is common with other inmates, and the conduct was covered by the First Amendment. The prosecutor says, the Bureau of Prisons handbook prohibits this. So it becomes a question, the content of what he was doing, Bradford, versus did he just straight up break the rules? And if he just straight up broke the rules, is that a concern for why he shouldn't be granted bail?
So the rules that he broke are broken on the daily basis. Like it's so idiotic when they just overshoot every time and say like, oh, it's three-way calling. He broke the rules. I don't even know how many times. I'm sure Brian has been through the same thing. I don't know how many times our clients call us with three-way calls and using someone else's PIN. And it's not that they want to discuss anything. It's all attorney-client privilege when they call us, unless it's a three-way call and there's someone else on the line, then it's not. And I always let my clients know that. But a lot of times they'll use other people's PINs for different reasons. Like even when they call me from a different PIN, it's because they feel like the government's still spying on a discussion between them and their lawyer. And they could be right. It's not like they're wrong. And a lot of times, or they want to call, they're married and they want to call their girlfriend. So they use, one of the other guy's PIN numbers. It's so commonly done that I don't even consider it a flagrant violation of the rules. I don't even know if they give shots, and what a shot is they give them some sort of a warning or some sort of pink slip for using someone else's. I don't even know if they do that anymore. because they're more concerned with the drugs and the cell phones and things that are snuck into the jail. This is such a minor violation that the government here is saying is such a massive violation that unless they can really tie it up with that he's doing it to contact these witnesses and threatening witnesses, if the judge has real life experience, which I'm sure this judge does, he's going to look at that as a very minor violation of the jail rules. And I don't think that shows that he's going to flagrantly do things if he's let out. I just don't think that's a good argument.
Well, here's
Okay, so we'll probably have another update here. All right, so Diddy flagrantly defied his lawyers, which, by the way, goes against what the lawyers said. Oh, if we tell him to do something, he will. Now, granted, apparently they didn't tell Diddy no. They told the son no. Like, yo, it's not a good time to post this up about your dad on his page. They tell that to the dad, and the dad says, "Fuck that, do it." Then they're coming back to say defendants has used at least 8 inmates' codes. He bought them. He says they say contact me ASAP operates through TrueLinks, a trust fund limited inmate computer system. And AUSA says it's not permitted. In the Jeffries, one is detained. And judge says a foreign national. Let's see. Any more updates? All right, not yet.
The headaches here
Grab a cup.
are all driven by the fact that they've taken away his liberty before his trial.
Right.
All those headaches, every single one of them, put aside for the sake of argument the government's concern about threat, every one of those headaches that inure to the defendant in terms of constitutional protections go away.
Yeah.
All of the headaches for the court in policing this go away. They become somebody else's problem, and know well that if there's one issue, somebody goes sideways a little bit, somebody makes a phone call somewhere,
Right.
he's detained within 5 minutes of that incident. So
Right.
the easy thing to do here, and I've been kind of, saying this for a month, is to let a guy have a $50 million bail package.
I'm going to give you another question, Brian, because you know what? You're right. We've been beating the.
By the way, these are defense attorneys. They're not going to say no, right? They make these arguments all the time. Obviously, this is an outstanding type of situation. $50 million package, Diddy. It's not normal. However, they make these arguments all the time for other people they represent. So they're going to be like, yo, I got to let him out, right? They're not going to be on the prosecutor's side.
One is detained, and the judge said that's a foreign national. Okay, so making a little distinctions here. But I do have a different question for you, Brian, if I can find it, if I didn't lose it. This is from Latoya on YouTube. If he is convicted, Brian, and sentenced to prison, what happens with the civil lawsuits?
Well, I mean, the civil lawsuits may all at some point be indefensible. Once he's convicted, again, making sure all those civil lawsuits have some relationship to the charges here. To the extent they do, they become indefensible. There'll be a conviction. That conviction will be part and parcel of the evidence in the civil case. He'd have to be deposed. If he was deposed while his case is on appeal, he'd have to assert the Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment is an admission in a civil case. Those cases, if they are related to this event and he is convicted, become indefensible.
All right, we have another other update. Prosecutor says this is more similar to the cases where detention was ordered, talking about R. Kelly, Keith Raniere, Larry Ray. Bradford, if you're sitting in that courtroom and you're representing Sean Combs and the prosecution mentions these other people, R. Kelly was charged with sex trafficking and racketeering. How do you distinguish Sean Combs from those cases?
Well, the funny thing is, and it's not that funny, is that different areas have different issues with bond and how bond packages are done. In the R. Kelly case, I don't think, number one is they came up with $50 million. They didn't have 24-hour security. They didn't have electronic monitor taking away his cell phones, his computers, etc. They didn't have any of that. So if you want to compare apples to apples, I think, and my opinion, is that the best case scenario is that Abercrombie and Fitch CEO. I keep going back to it. It happened very soon in time. It was in an area that is right next to New York City, which is the Eastern District. He was allowed to surrender. He was given a $10 million bond. The guy still, nobody even knows. If I was in a room with the CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch, I wouldn't know him from anyone, right? If I'm in a room with Sean Combs, I'm going to recognize him right away. So it's a little bit of a different situation. The CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch can disappear to Morocco. No one's going to recognize the guy.
He's got. I mean, have you seen his face? He's got a quite a distinguishable face, but that's a separate kind of issue. But anyway, yeah.
I have. And the common man does not know who the CEO of Abercrombie and Fitch is. I would argue that Sean Combs is known pretty much worldwide, especially even at this point, and that I think lends itself to really distinguishing him from the rest of these individuals. And we always say like, hey, money does this or money does that. And it's true, someone without substance might not be getting a bond on this case. But that's the whole point of bond, is that it shows your commitment to appear in court, to not violate the rules, to do these certain things. So as you have more money, obviously the bond is higher in amount to make.
Oh, hey, by the way, I see a few K-bots, like usual, because I know y'all probably were sleeping. Y'all not used to y'all mans dropping some music. Your mans did drop. We listened to it. It was cool. It was good. Not even gonna lie to you. But it's not much for us to talk about. You get what I'm saying? Again, it's okay. That's cool. We're just gonna kind of move on with it. You feel me? Now, there's a couple songs we're gonna keep playing. We might talk about some more. I'm gonna do a lyric breakdown too, but like, the funny part about the K-bots is like, yo, Drake fans, y'all mad? We need y'all. No, it's all good. We're moving on to the next thing Diddy hearing. We'll double back though, but for now, it's cool. Life goes on.
That more allowing him to surrender, like they would allow anyone. I mean, he's there to surrender. Instead of allowing him to surrender, which a judge would have looked upon that favorably and said, oh, he surrendered himself, they go to his hotel and they pick him up at 9:00 at night. It was a real, to me, spit in the face. And I think the reason they did that.
Chat, that's not hate. I see some people say, yo, that's hate. That's not hate. What I'm saying is that even me, I'm saying Kendrick just dropped a good little body of work. I like it. I literally said I like it. Here's the problem with like his fans and everything, because genuinely, most of the energy and interest is coming from putting him against Drake. That if there's no angle where people are saying, oh man, you violated him again. Oh man, what Drake gonna do? This doesn't live beyond. You see how that last song he dropped just disappeared, right? Like nobody cared, right? What I'm saying is that there's some songs on here where I think it's cool. I think it's good. I think it's a good project. But I don't know what more y'all want me to talk about. You know what I'm saying? If it's as good as y'all say it is, we will have a lot to talk about more. If not, it will just go by the wind. I do think, anything he drops is going to be shocking. But I think some of y'all, I want to call it K-bots, like y'all literally want people to like stop in shock and awe and belief. No, I mean, again, I'm giving it the credit, good project, but would you want us to talk about it all day? For me, and maybe that's where my bias comes in. Usually when I hear new Kendrick, I listen to it. I'm like, okay, this is cool. This is good. But I don't listen to it like, what I play at the beginning of my streams. Like I listen to Drake over and over and over again. And maybe you do that with Kendrick. I just don't. So I'm like, I listen to it. I'm going to go listen to it again a little bit. But after that, I probably ain't going to listen too much often unless there's a hit song. It is what it is. I know everybody, like half of y'all are in denial. Y'all want this nigga to be as consumed as much as the other guy. Can't force people to do it, But nobody's hating on it either. I'm giving kudos. Good project. That's the thing about Kendrick fans. You can't please them. Me, Drake, biggest fan, is saying, good project. Okay, next topic. No, we're not done talking. Come back to no. What more you want to talk about? What more y'all talking about? You get what I'm saying?
If not today, Monday.
These things be tight. They just want me to like just keep like. It's clear that like a lot of the hype for Kendrick is fueled off of like even the outrage by like the people that supposedly either hate him or like Drake. And I don't know about nobody else who like Drake or whatever, but I'm telling you, nice album. I like it. That's dope. It's like the Tyler the Creator album. Like, my nigga, I don't listen to Tyler the Creator a bunch of times. I think he makes music for like metrosexual niggas. I'm gonna keep it a beat. You know what I'm saying? I listened to it. I like a couple songs. I thought it was valid. I thought it was super creative. But y'all weren't like, yo, talk about it more. Like, what the fuck? Like, nigga, it's over. And I think that album's like a week and a half old. It's the same thing with Kendrick's album, okay? And most of it is my preference. I don't listen to Kendrick a lot like that. Like, what the fuck am I gonna listen to this nigga with lack of melody? Don't you hear me do my intros? I sing. I'm singing. I'm not over here like, you see me with veins in my neck, nigga? Fuck no. You get what I'm saying? So, like, I listen to Kendrick. I give him the props for it being good, if it's good. But then I kind of move on. Like, his shit is not the shit that I bump every fucking day, right? So, y'all K-Bots, y'all get like 2 days. So, after like these 2 days, and obviously, you know, he's still going to do well because I'm not the majority here. But if y'all wanted us to discuss, like, new themes, the only thing I could pull, like, we're not talking about J3 Hitter. Like, nobody gives a fuck about that guy. You get what I'm saying? Dude's a loser on Twitter. You get what I'm saying? What we're going to be talking about is Diddy diss Drake. And we'll go find those bars or those lyrics or whatever. Shout out to everybody else who got a look on the album. And that's what we're going to do, all right?
Is I feel like they're ruling against me, and they say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to get a written order."
Let's see if we get another update. Okay. So Combs' lawyer says he has access to cell phones in MDC. What the fuck? But not under our conditions. Oh, so I guess they're saying, yo, there's cell phones in MDC. He has access to them if he wants to, but he hasn't used them. But in our conditions, he won't have any access to them. And so he fights, he kicks, he makes phone calls. This could be addressed. Thank you. And the judge says we're going to get a decision out prompt next week. So everything was adjourned, and it appears that nothing will be decided today. So he listened to both. He's going to think about it. And he's going to come back with a ruling tomorrow. Now, I would imagine that anything that wasn't submitted before the hearing or said in court won't be considered. So if they file more letters or whatever, it won't be considered, I would think.
That when you get a judge that is fairly new, it's usually very refreshing, their take on certain